Friends. So happy to be here yet another week and another wonderful topic. I'm kind of excited about this one. So today I'm going to start with some updates. Exciting news. So chapter 3 is a wrap. It's done. So I have the soft edits for chapter 24 to go through. Then I have to print out 25, 26, 27, get those edits done and get them in the computer, and then one final gloss through, which I'm kind of doing as I'm recording these chapters for the YouTube channel. So that won't take very long. So I'm currently sitting on page 297 out of 342 pages of actual book content, not including the extra pages. So don't take that as a direct quote, Chris, because that's not my total page count. I'm also, I remember posting originally that my first edition was over 176,000 words. I am currently sitting at 140,920 words. Yay! So cutting out a lot of the fat. It's great. Hi, Joanne. Nice to see you. I do apologize last week for some weird glitch reason. I didn't see a single comment until after I ended the video. So I had no idea anyone was actually watching, except that it said on the top corner that I live and it had like 5 people watching. But I didn't see any of the comments until after. Hi, Dutchie. Nice to see you too. So the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about today is tropes. So some people haven't heard this term. And I was one of them for a long time. I had no idea what people were talking about tropes and talking on Facebook and different writer groups and complaining about TVs and movie shows and stuff. And I hate these stupid tropes. What is that? So a trope is just an overused situation, and it can be something as simple as like a little snippet. Like, let's say one of the most annoying ones in Hollywood is the gun that never runs out of ammo. That is a trope. You see it all the time. It can also be something as broad as like people that, like, you have a guy and a girl who hate each other and then they fall in love. That is a trope. And that's not saying that all tropes are bad, because they're not. They're very useful tools when used correctly. So the wonderful thing about tropes is that, we've watched so many videos and movies and read so many books and stuff that these very common themes are ingrained in our DNA. Like, when we start to sense a trope, our mind automatically goes to where it's supposed to go, right? That's what happens. You see a guy and a girl not getting along, you know that something's going to happen down the road. The trick is to use that trope. Force a perspective. Get someone's mind going in that direction while laying subtle hints that it's going someplace else that they won't pick up on, because the dominant focus is on what your mind automatically goes to, which is the trope. So you use that to force their mind in a way where they're not going to notice the things that you're dropping, and then bring your unexpected twist into the mix. And they won't see it coming. It's very rare. Like, I mean, I sit and pick movies apart constantly, and TV shows. It was funny. I was watching first season of Beauty and the Beast, which it's very, very CW kind of cheesy. The second season, Joanne, as you said, is much better. Much better. Although I kind of miss the long hair, but it's okay. But I was watching the first season and with my friend Mandy in the kitchen. And I was like, okay, so now, yeah, she hates him. She just found out about him. So now she's going to get herself in a situation where her life is going to be in danger. He's going to rescue her. And then suddenly they're best friends. And that's exactly what happened. The trick to making it not cheesy is to start that train of thought. Start that opinion, but change it. Change it right in the middle or right at the end, where it's something that they won't see coming because they expect it to go in the natural order that they've seen a million times. And that is one of the author's best tools. It's a blessing and a curse, because there are some tropes that are just overdone and you should just leave them alone. The third season is worse than the last season. It's really bad. Oh, God. I hate hearing that. I really do. I mean, content-wise, I mean, some of it's actually interesting here and there, especially in the second season. But that's really not why I watch it. I watch it because I'm just completely fascinated by the fact that the actor Jay Ryan looks exactly like what I pictured in my head as Chance. And he's like walking around and talking with similar kind of attitude, honestly, in a lot of cases. So it's it's really, that's why I'm watching it. It's awful. It's awful. Hi, Chris. Good to see you. So Tropes. It's like I said, a blessing and a curse. It can be a very good blessing if you use them properly, to get people's minds going in that natural track and then throw them off guard. It's great. The pitfalls of tropes is if you rely too heavily on them, then it just looks like lazy writing, and it becomes predictable and boring, and that's the problem. That's the problem I saw in the first season, is that I knew which steps were going to happen and what was going to happen next. Like, you could just see it all lay out right in front of you, and nothing deviated from that path. It followed the formula, like, seamlessly. Another example is I was talking recently on one of these video chats about a movie I saw. Now I can't remember the name, but it was one of those, We Hunt Humans type of movies. And, that is a trope in and of itself. You've seen a million movies about, like, a group of people hunting other groups of people. But the difference is, like, they got your mind going in the correct vein, right? So they started off with, like, focusing the camera heavily on one girl. And when they do that in the beginning of one of these movies, any horror movie really, hey, this is the survivor chick. Pay attention. She's going to be important. But the thing that caught my interest and made me want to watch the rest of the movie was the fact that they killed her off first. So they broke the trope. They got you thinking in that direction, and then they went, bam, nope, next. So then they focused heavily on this other guy, and he was a famous actor. And, so you're like, okay, the trope is restarting. This is our survivor guy. Bam, dead. No. Trope broken again. We love that. We love to see those classic ingrained things just torn apart and remade. It's great. I actually had kind of an argument with my fiance and his best friend because they were picking on me a lot on Sunday. Like one of his good friends, it's just his sense of humor. I don't really blame him. Was trying to tell me that I shouldn't waste my time trying to find a producer to make my books into TV shows. I should just make them into porns. Like, yeah, you obviously haven't read my book. It's fine. But, it's just his sense of humor. I kind of took it with a grain of salt, and it didn't really bother me. But then, like, Eric and Rishel just kept picking on me and, like, making cracks about typical vampire tropes, like all the vampire stuff that everyone's grown up with, that we all know. And if anyone has actually read my book, they know that I make fun of those things, and they don't actually happen in my book. Like, there's very, very few exceptions to that. And when I do bring in those exceptions, it's on purpose, very much. So when I started writing this book, I wanted it to be a very different take on vampires. So I wanted them to be very normal. Not just like, I am a vampire and all I want to do is fall in love. Not Twilight normal. Like, actually normal. Like, they're not much different. It's just like a different race. Like, you have Caucasians and you have Mexicans. Well, you have humans and you have vampires. Like, it's just subtle physiological differences. And some of those may seem mystical, but they're not. Not really. I mean, there's scientific explanations for all of it. So I wanted people to forget that they were supernatural. I wanted them to think of them as just normal people that they see every day. So I relied heavily on that in the beginning of the book. And the biggest part of that was the interactions between Lilith and Chance. Because they're so, I love them so much. Oh, I was reading chapter 3, and I just love that the way they interact with each other in the beginning. It's just awesome. But it's so genuine and warm and human that you forget that these are not your everyday people and that they have different lives. So the reason I did that and relied so heavily on that in the beginning is so that when you have a moment that hits one of these vampire tropes, it like shocks you. Because it's not just a normal trope. It's like you forgot that they're vampires and all of a sudden, bam, like she's feeding him her blood to like hopefully keep him alive. Not because her vampire blood's going to do anything, but because she got blood from Cohen, and hopefully there's some stuff left in there enough to heal him and like not let him die. So that's why I choose those things. And I continue that in book 2. Like, you forget, again, that they're anything supernatural. And then she has that moment underneath the cab. And it shocks you. It's just like, oh, shit. Yeah, I forgot. Oh, bad word. Sorry. I should keep it PG. At least I have a disclaimer on the YouTube channel videos for the book that, you know, may contain strong language. I should always have that up and about, because that's just the way. Well, I talk a lot nicer on here, but I just cuss like a sailor at home. So tropes. Let's get back. So I did make a list of some of the tropes that, you know, we should really try and stay away from. Like, they never really work anymore, because they're just like, someone does it and you're just like, oh God, this again. And thank you, Joanne. I do try to like make them, make you connect with those characters, because I mean, that's really the point of the book. Especially, well, all the books, honestly, but like the first book is mostly about Lilith, and her journey. And, you know, although all this, you know, horrific crap happens and there's big storylines and plots and twists and all this stuff, I mean, the main guts of that book is just telling a woman's story about how she lost those rose-colored glasses that she used to view her father with, and that her whole world was torn apart and she had to somehow find a way to stitch it back together in some semblance of normalcy. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to talk about like universal themes and stuff, I mean, sure, my mom's not dead. She's very much alive. We'll talk about how this relates to my life. She's very much alive. Me and my dad had a great relationship when I was a kid, but not so much when I was growing up. We butted heads a lot. We're both very stubborn. But, you know, I didn't have any like 600-year-old monster from the past like trying to torture and kill my entire family. Obviously, that's not a real thing. But I have had moments in my life where something so traumatic happened that it tore everything apart. So I can write about those feelings because I know those feelings. Like, I know what it feels like to have everything stripped away and all your hopes and dreams completely dashed and torn to shreds, and having to try and pick up your life from there. Like, it's happened at least 2 times in my life. So it's not, well, it's probably more than that, but I mean, 2 specific times I can think of. So it doesn't have to be a literal connection, but everyone has those moments. Like, almost everyone. I mean, there's some truly blessed people out there that have never had to have that experience, thank God. But I mean, for most of us, we understand that. We get that concept. And yes, she had to grow up. And that was another thing that was very important to me when I first started writing, is I did not want her to be this kick-ass, all-powerful, badass bitch. Because she's not. She's just a person. And most of us are not that way. You know, we're not all trained assassins. Like, I mean, even people who work on crime scenes, most of the time, no, nothing. Like, they can't do any of that. Like, a lot of times, it is true that some CSIs can carry guns if they're licensed and everything else, even if they're not part of the police department, because that does happen. There are crime scene investigation units that are separate, and they're not actual cops, because they're scientists. So all that part's real, but, you know, it's not like they have martial arts training. They didn't go to police academy. You know, they don't deal with life and death situations, because they come in after all that stuff has happened. They study the aftermath, not like live in the circumstances. So I didn't want her to like be comfortable with violence and comfortable with having her life threatened and stuff, because it's not comfortable. I mean, it's brand new to her. She hasn't lived as long as Gregor. She hasn't been through anywhere near as much stuff as he has been through. I mean, she's only 27 years old in the first book. So, well, in the second book, because that takes place right afterwards. And technically the third book, because that's only 6 months later. She's working her way to 28. Yeah, I kind of wish I could roll back the time and go back to 27, 28. But in my current circumstances, that'd be great. So, enough about Lilith for right now. Let's go back to tropes. So, tropes to avoid. So, some of the ones that I've noticed when I watch shows, probably my biggest one is really the gun that has an endless ammo, that they never have to change the clip. I was watching The Mandalorian, most recent episode, because I love that show so much. And I was completely blown away because they had like a laser blaster that ran out of ammo. And I did not know that those things could even run out of ammo. Like, I didn't know. And I thought it was fantastic that they did that. That was probably my favorite thing. So the guns that don't run out of ammo. Also, the character that's waiting in the dark in someone's house, waiting for them to come home, and then clicks on the light, surprise. When has that ever happened in real life? Seriously. I mean, if you really think about things logically, if you wanted to kill someone, because that's usually what, it's about. It's usually killing somebody. Why the hell would you just sit in the dark and then turn on the light and give them a chance to react? You just shoot them as soon as they walk in the door. That's dumb. It's just dumb. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. Like, that's one thing that drives me nuts about shows when, like, they're all concerned about this person killing them and stuff and goes through all these great extraordinary lengths to try to capture them. Just hire a sniper off a roof. Bam, done. Like, it needs to make sense. If they want them alive, there's got to be a reason to want them alive. Seriously. It needs to be thought out. Another one that's pretty played out, unless you bring a new perspective to it, is that oh crap moment, he's right behind me. Like, it is kind of funny in TV shows. It happens a lot when you're talking about just humor things, or sometimes in scary movies. I mean, yeah, it's right behind you and people relate to that feeling. But you have to kind of try and bring some kind of new angle to it, because it's very played out. Very played out. What else I got? Oh, this is a good one that I've also never seen in real life. So if you guys have seen these in real life, let me know. But the whole scene where, like, someone starts talking nonsense to prove that the other person isn't listening, I've never done that in my entire life. I've never been like, yeah, so I think on Friday we should go to, and then notice they're not listening and be like, and the Pope flies around on purple elephants. Nope, I've never done that. I'm reading a question. Okay. Reminds me of the Kay Scarpetta series, Who is Forensic Doctor by Patricia Cornwall. My mom used to read Patricia Cornwall. I haven't. I didn't read a lot of investigative fiction. Mine tended to be more supernatural based. Go figure. But I've heard she's a fantastic writer. But yeah. So the whole nonsense thing, it's just not realistic. Who does that? Usually, if we notice someone's not listening, we're like, hey, are you listening? No? Okay. We don't start talking nonsense words. It's just weird. The whole mistaking a character's girlfriend or boyfriend for their brother or sister thing. I mean, come on, please. Do it all the time. One of my biggest pet peeves is the love triangle. And I have mentioned this before because we were talking about this with the whole Lilith and Chance and Cohen thing and stuff. So I just don't see the love triangle as something that should happen all the time. And it seems that it does. Even Beauty and the Beast had it. And it pissed me off and I didn't like it at all. First of all, I don't like Gabe. He should just go away. But beyond that, like, I am a deep, deep, hopeless romantic. I cannot stand it when you start questioning someone's loyalty to someone else. Like, I don't like it. It's very, I don't know, it just makes everything meaningless. Like, if you have two people that have this great mythic epic love, but then there's this other guy and he's really sweet to me, so now I like him too. I'm so torn. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Ridiculous. No. Nope. Pissed me off. It is a trope that's so overdone. So overdone. And I've never seen an interesting twist on it that actually made me like it. Ever. Never. Nope. I don't care if you break up with someone, fine, but you're not gonna if you still have feelings for them, you're not gonna be I don't know, having a serious relationship with someone else. Now, it's one thing that you just sleep with some random person as a rebound. I mean, that stuff happens in real life. But how often do you actually see true romantic triangles in everyday real life? Have you ever seen one? Because I have not. Not ever. Never. And I've never felt torn between two people before. That's, to me, it's a ridiculous notion. And maybe I'm old-fashioned. I don't know. But when I am in love with somebody, that is the person that is in my head all the time. I mean, when I first met Eric, I didn't even have celebrity crushes anymore because those just they paled in comparison. It's all about Eric. And yes, I have this fascination with Beauty and the Beast, and Mandy's going to call me out on this because of Jay Ryan, who looks exactly like Chance. It's not a celebrity crush. That is a fascination with a character from my head walking around on screen. Different story. Just saying. Just clarifying. So yeah, love triangles. They're just, oh God, I hate them. I hate them so much. They don't make any sense. And the only thing they're used for is to twist the guts of the people reading and watching to the point where they have to keep watching to make sure that those original two people end up back together. It is successful because I almost stopped watching Beauty and the Beast when he kissed Tori. That was about it for me. And I stopped watching for 2 days. But then I had to know that it was gonna get fixed. Because it's wrong. So then I keep watching. So some of the other tropes that you see constantly overused is the whole ugly turned beauty thing. How many movies have we seen about that? They really have to have some kind of really new twist on it to make me want to watch it. Because it's just so overdone, especially in the 80s, man. We had so many of those ugly duckling movies, guys and girls, both of them. Yeah, it was all the time. The whole dynamic of a cop living a criminal. That's another one. How many times can we discuss the moral dilemma of a black and white cop falling in love with a criminal that delves into the gray matter, gray areas? It's the same thing. Same thing again on Beauty and the Beast. And yes, True Blood has the love triangle. I also did not like that. Like I said, I have yet to see a love triangle that actually made me like it for any reason. Except in this case, I hated Bill. He was fine in the first season, but after the first season, I just couldn't stand him, and I wanted her to go with Eric. Mostly, too, because I read the books, and in the books, she does wind up with Eric. And it's a different story. If you're broken up, and you've been apart from each other forever, for a long time, or whatever, and you find someone else, and you fall in love, yeah, that's cool. And sometimes that original person does still harbor feelings. But, how often do you actually, still harbor feelings back for them? And while we're taking a second to talk about relationships, if you break up with someone, what makes you think that you can ever get back together, truly? I really want to ask this question, and it's a heavy moment right here in the middle of all this, fun talk about tropes. But just to point out, if you break a dish on a floor and you glue it back together, is it as strong as it was before it was broken? No. Will it ever be as strong as it was before it was broken? No. Relationships are just the same, especially when it involves trust issues. If you actually go through and actually break up with someone, end everything because of trust issues, you will never trust them again, no matter what they do. It doesn't matter. You will always have that in your head. So just my little PSA. Thank you, Chris. So the cop loves the criminal thing. Okay, let's get back to that. So yes, we always meet people that have conflicting morals than the ones that, you know, we hold dear. And part of that is just growing up and realizing that the world is never black and white, and it really never is. But I mean, I've seen so many times, and I'm going to use this as an example a lot because I'm currently watching it, but in Beauty and the Beast, for example, how many times did they have the conversation about how she needed to stop covering for him and making sacrifices for him? Almost every single episode. If you've talked about it and you've discussed it, let it freaking go and move on. Like, it reminded me so much of Smallville, where it was all, should I tell her? Should I not tell her? Should I tell her? Should I not tell her? Constantly. Oh my God, constantly. I'm like, well, you shut up and just, you know, do what you're supposed to do now. Stop having this argument. It's dumb. It's dumb. You've talked about it. It's dumb. So some of these I picked up too is like not anything really to do with my books, but movies in general and shows and stuff like that too. So the whole concept of moving back to a small town from a big city, and suddenly you find your humanity and realize what life's really about. It's great, and that does happen sometimes. And I'm not saying that it should never be used, but please God, do something original with it. Don't just make it literally the same trope that we see in half of the Hallmark Christmas movies, which I don't watch, but I work in a hospital and a lot of my patients watch them, so I'm subjected to quite a bit of it, and it sickens me. I can't stand it. It's just, God, so bad. All the time. You're right, Joanne, all the time. Oh, and the small town sheriff that always wins, and he's like somehow an extreme badass that can do anything and everything. Yeah. Have you been to a small town? Have you met a small town sheriff? Yeah. Yeah, it's not The Rock. Yeah, he's not like patrolling a small town. It's very rare. It doesn't happen. You know, I mean, fantasy stories are fun and all, but you know, some grain of reality is always nice. Oh yeah, I was just touching on this kind of a little bit, but the whole self-loathing from people that have powers. And this extends from vampires to Superman, like all of them. Like, oh God, my life sucks so bad because of this. I'm like, cool, okay. Do you want to pay my mortgage? Do you want to raise a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old? Do you want to try and find Christmas decorations in my attic? Because I would rather you do those things, and I will fly around the city for a day. That'd be cool. The prince who falls for the small town girl. Yeah, that's pretty overdone too. You better have a unique angle, and that's my message. Like, almost any of these tropes can be used and used effectively if you bring something new to it and unexpected, because that's where you break the predictability. If you start a trope like these, and then you break that partway through or towards the end, and you do something completely different with it, that's where you get your audience. That's where you really make an impression. Yeah, the unnoticed girl too, like, you know, suddenly becoming like gorgeous. It's kind of an ugly duckling thing. Or like the girl that's in the background and secretly loves this man forever and ever, and he never notices her. And I say that, and I realize that I use that trope, but backwards. Because you don't often, not often, do you see a guy who loves a girl from the background forever and ever and ever, and is actually right about those feelings. Like, usually the trope is the guy is like madly in love with the girl, but really he should be noticing his best friend that really cares about him, not the popular girl. So I did kind of use that trope, but I put a different spin on it, and that's what I love about it. That's what I really like. Because it's not like guys are incapable of having emotional depth. Like, I mean, come on. They can. They can have emotional depth without seeming like unmanly. And that's one thing I wanted to do in the book too. I have a lot of missions in the book, but you know, that was one of my missions, is to have a guy who has feelings and is emotionally available once you get there, but it doesn't make him any less manly. It's not like he's some geek or pushover or doormat or any of that stuff. You know, he just has these feelings that he's kept to himself for a long time. Mostly because her dad threatened his life, but okay. Oh, here's a great medical one, and it's not the one I talk about in my book, but that is a big pet peeve of mine. The whole flatline, shocking a flatline thing does not work. I'm a nurse. I will tell you that is incorrect. You cannot jump start a heart. Oh, thank you. Yeah, reading my book for the second time now is awesome. And it's fun the other way around. I liked it. I thought it was very, very cool. And I loved the whole tattoo thing. And I was just reading that part in the first book for chapter 3, because that's kind of how it comes across in chapter 3. And where she asks about it twice, and he gets really defensive about it. And it's adorable, and I love it. I really like reading it. I'm really getting into the characters. It's a lot of fun. If you watch the video part, it's going to look real choppy, because as I'm reading, like, I have mistakes here and there, and I stop and I give myself a pause so that I can go back and cut it out so that the audio sounds smooth. So I concentrated on the audio and not the video. So just so you guys know, if I jump like positions suddenly, that's why. But yeah, the shocking a flatline doesn't work. So just so you guys know, real quick, because it is in the book, if a heart is in a dangerous rhythm, like VFib or VTAC and stuff like that, which, you know, is more advanced, you don't need to know what those things mean. But if it's actually doing a rhythm, if there's an electrical impulse that's not a flat line, you can shock that to stop the heart so that hopefully it resets in a normal rhythm. And that's the whole point of a defibrillator, which is what the pads are, they're actually stickers now, not paddles. So you can't shock a flat line because there's no electrical activity to stop. It's already stopped. That's the problem. The only thing you can do is give them epinephrine and hope that they come out of it and do CPR. That's it. That's all you can do. You can't shock a flat line. So that's one of my biggest pet peeves ever. It blew my mind in nursing school when they told me that. And it's just like, I was so disillusioned, because movies even today still use it. Every time. Every time. But another one of my big medical pet peeves is getting shot in the shoulder or shot in the stomach, and it's fine. They're perfectly fine. There is no good place in the body to get shot by a gun, no matter what caliber it is or anything. It's bad. No matter where you get shot, it's bad, because you have blood vessels and arteries and organs everywhere in your body. If you get shot in the shoulder, right up here in the top part, like, even if it doesn't, let's go this side because my hair's not there. Even this side, this is your clavicle bone, so it'll probably break that, which is extremely painful. And if it's shattered, you're talking major surgery around your neck and vital blood vessels and arteries, by the way. Even at the top here, the fleshy part, your lungs go all the way up here. You can still puncture a lung with a shot above the clavicle. You can. So there's no good place to get shot. If you get shot here, you're talking about major arteries that feed the blood in your arm. If you get shot in the stomach, you know, you have tons of organs in there, intestines. You have to catch all those bleeders and everything else. Like, it is bad. It's not good to get shot anywhere. So none of these places is it like, oh, it's just a shot in the shoulder, it's fine. Like, I mean, the only exception is when it like just barely grazes and they have a scratch on their arm. That's fine. Whatever. You get over that. But yeah, it's a big medical pet peeve of mine. And although people in my book do get shot, but I mean, in a lot of cases, most of the cases, they didn't stay shot for long because of other circumstances, like, you know, Cohen's blood that heals them and stuff like that. So I tried to take them very seriously because they are serious things. Let's see. Oh, here's another favorite of mine. A woman cutting their hair to portray her getting over trauma. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten new hairstyles before for the same thing. It's kind of like reinventing yourself, and I get that, but can we just not do it every single time someone suffers like a from a traumatic experience and decides to move on and cuts all their hair off? Can we do something else? Like, because there's a lot of other things you can do. You can dye your hair. Like Long Kiss Goodnight did that. She did kind of cut her hair too, but she dyed it like platinum blonde. So, you know, I mean, there's a lot of other things you can do besides just cutting your hair. Go get a new wardrobe. I don't know. Go join a gym. And then another of my technical tropes that I cannot stand, and you see it constantly, especially in crime scene shows, is the whole enhancing video. So as a homework assignment, I want you to take a video with your cell phone and then blow it up and see what happens. It gets really grainy and pixelated and you can't see anything. And that's exactly what happens with all video. Unless the video is shot on like super high definition, which is never the case unless you're filming a movie, you can't blow it up hardly at all without it distorting and you losing all sense of what it is you're looking at. Like, it just isn't done that way. And it can't be done that way because you can't create pixels, because all images are made of little tiny dots, and those dots are only so big when the image is created. So the more you blow it up, you're just blowing up those tiny dots to be bigger. It doesn't make the picture clearer, it just makes it bigger and blurrier. So yeah, some of those tropes, some of them you definitely want to avoid at all costs, especially the ones that are just extremely unrealistic. Just avoid them. Just don't use them. Don't enhance video. Don't have guns with endless ammo. Don't sit in the dark and wait for someone to come home that you can kill them. It just makes no sense at all. Like, and if you're going to use tropes, which you should always use tropes. It's a very important tool. I'm not telling you to avoid all tropes at all, because that's how you create unpredictability. But choose them carefully, choose them on purpose, and utilize them to their fullest extent. Utilize them to guide the reader's direction, to guide their train of thought in a certain predetermined direction, because they're experienced with these, because everyone is. Guide them in that direction and then take them somewhere else really quick, and it's great. It's fantastic. And I love using them when they're used properly. It's really great stuff. So we've had a really lively little debate in here, and I've enjoyed it. This is probably one of my favorite conversations that I've talked about, because I think it's very crucial and important, and it's a very subtle tool that's so vital to really quality writing. Not that I'm saying my writing's the best in the world. I mean, I never say that, but I like to think that my writing is clever, and hopefully no one proves me wrong. So I want to thank you guys for all joining me today. It's been fun. If you guys have any other tropes that I didn't touch on, a big don't for me when reading is over describing characters. Very true. And this is a little tip that I learned when I was reading Laurel Hamilton. Laurel Hamilton had this very awesome knack. She would very quickly describe a person, and she'd hit a couple, like one or two very distinct features about that person, and then when she would talk about them again, she would mention that distinct feature, so that she didn't have to describe the person all over again, because you just remember him. Oh, that's the guy with the small chin. You know, with Cohen, that's the guy with the almost handsome face, because he has a small chin. Like, it's a very good tool, and I do like it a lot. Also, over describing rooms. Yes, describe the atmosphere if it has something to do with the message and what you're trying to say. You don't have to describe a police office if it doesn't really affect anything. You know what I mean? Everyone knows generally what a police office looks like. You don't have to go into description about everything in it if none of those things are going to impact like the message of the book or the dialogue. So choosing when to describe and how briefly to describe. Choose very poignant words that stick with people instead of just, you know, generic descriptions. If it's something very important. Like when I was chapter 3, I was talking about Duncan's house and stuff, and I did describe a little bit of like the atmosphere of the place on purpose because it was portraying Duncan's personality through his house. Because you never really meet Duncan. Not really. I mean, you meet what he turned into at the end. But you never really get to meet the real person. So portraying that by walking through his house and describing like how he lived there and what it looked like was very important to describing who Duncan was. So that you cared about what happened to him. I just drink gin and I feel better straight away. It's a good suggestion. I like it. So thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me today. It was really fun. If you think of any other tropes that I didn't touch on, definitely message me and let me know, and I'll talk about them next time. It'll be fun. So I'm making great progress on the book. I'm going to start putting chapter 24 edits in, hopefully a little bit today, maybe. And yeah, I will let you guys know when chapter 3 is up. I'm currently uploading it to YouTube, and it takes a while because I use like the highest quality. So it usually takes like 2 hours for it to upload. So it's in progress. I will definitely post it on the page and share it everywhere when it's done. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this chapter a lot. There's some really great banter between Chance and Lilith in it. It's awesome. So yeah, so look out for that. And then I will see you guys next week. If you have ideas for stuff you want me to talk about, definitely share. Because I do run low on ideas. This one just kind of came to me, and if nothing else, I might look into some more tropes that we can talk about more in depth. That might be kind of cool. So let me know. If you got ideas, let me know. And thank you guys for watching and hanging out, and I will see you next week.